In 13th century Mongolia, a princess decided she would only marry a man who could beat her in wrestling. Nobody could beat her in wrestling. This is Kutulun, and she is everything. Kutulun was born around 1260, the daughter of Kaidu Khan, one of the most powerful rulers in Central Asia, and a cousin of the legendary Kublai Khan. She grew up in a world where Mongol women were already significantly more independent than their European counterparts, but Kutulun took that and ran with it, literally. She was described by the explorer Marco Polo, who was traveling through Central Asia at the time, as stronger and braver than any man at court. High praise from a guy who had seen basically everything the medieval world had to offer. She rode into battle alongside her father regularly, not as a figurehead, not as a symbol. She actually fought. Contemporary accounts describe her charging into enemy lines, snatching enemy soldiers off their horses, and dragging them back to her father like a cat dropping something at your feet. She was reportedly her father's favorite child, out of 20, and Kaidu had a lot of sons. Now here's where Kutulun becomes genuinely legendary. When it came time to marry, Kutulun had a condition. Any man who wanted her hand had to beat her in a wrestling match. If he won, she'd marry him. If she won, he kept his pride. Just kidding. He had to hand over 100 horses. This was not a joke. This was the actual deal. Suitors came from across the empire, princes, warriors, men who had won battles and conquered territories, men who were absolutely certain they could take down one woman in a wrestling match. They could not. Kutulun accumulated somewhere in the range of 10,000 horses over her lifetime from all the men she defeated. 10,000 horses. Marco Polo wrote about it. Her story spread across trade routes and royal courts. Men kept showing up, kept betting their horses, and kept losing. At one point, her parents became so desperate for her to marry that they essentially begged her to just let someone win. She refused. There are accounts suggesting she briefly pretended to consider a match with a particularly impressive suitor, and then threw him anyway. But Kutulun wasn't just a wrestling champion, she was a genuine military force. She fought in her father's campaigns for decades, and Kaidu trusted her military judgment above almost everyone else at court, including his sons. There is evidence suggesting he wanted to name her his successor, which caused significant drama among her brothers, as you might imagine. After Kaidu died in 1301, Kutulun fought to protect his legacy against rivals within her own family. She ruled over her father's people as a leader in her own right, something almost unheard of for a woman even in the relatively progressive Mongol world. She died around 1306. The exact circumstances are unclear, because of course they are. History can never just give us a clean ending for the women who deserved one. Kutulun never lost a wrestling match. She accumulated 10,000 horses from the men who tried. She rode into battle, commanded armies, and refused every single person who thought they could tell her what to do. In a century full of extraordinary Mongols, she stood out.